Welcome back to Seize the Imperium, the card game. Here in the fourth phase, and arguably the most important phase of the game, is the military phase. Here we're going to decide each of the conquest actions that we set up during the reallocation phase to see if we can take the world cards from the other players. To do this, we're going to need to accomplish a number of things. First, we're going to need to apply a number of conquest counters against the world card equal to its required value. For Malachar, that's 1. That's not too bad. We only have to overcome its defense value of 7 when attacking it. We'll also need to eliminate all defending troop cards and installation cards. That does not include defending fleets or orbitals. They are not required for a successful conquest action. And lastly, one of our attacking unit cards must survive to the end of the conquest action. Whether elimination or voluntary reallocation, either will foil your attempt to conquer that world card. So let's get started here. We're going after Malachar 4 here. They have the fighter carrier group with 3 fighter counters, the standard mech company, and the beam weapon batteries. To attack, we've brought our jump battlesuit company, the light cruiser task force with 6 mission counters, the rapid strike fleet, and our good old cyborg infantry division. So each conquest action will have 2 exchanges, and each exchange will have 4 steps. So before we begin here, we're going to play any tactics cards which impact the conquest action or the exchanges. So right off the bat, the capital attack player is going to use Phalanx Battle Formation, the basic version of it, to give a defense +3 to fleet cards of 1 player during exchange. So we're going to spend our 1 resource counter to beef that up to +3 defense for both of those fleets there. Make sure they survive. All right, and then as also we'll do anything else that occurs right at the beginning there, like surprise strike, ability that the rapid strike fleet has. So this occurs before the exchange and resolves all the way through. So we're going to take its surprise strike of +4 versus fleets and orbitals, giving it 6 +4, 10, versus the fighter carrier group, a high priority target. And that has a defensive value of 6. So that's enough to apply a damage counter to it. And during the exchange, we would be eliminated later, but with surprise strike, we resolve the damage counters instantly and remove that card from play. The fighter counters will survive, though, until the end of the conquest action, and then be eliminated at that point if they are still around. Up next, we'll begin our exchange proper here with the first step, and we're going to have all our units attack. So I'm going to start here with our light cruiser task force, and we're going to spend some of its mission counters. We're going to do 1 for +4 attack, 1 for defense +4, and 1 for firing arcs +1, because we want to be able to shoot at multiple things. So we're going to take that increased attack, 8 +4 is 12, and we're going to decide to split it in half for 6 and 6 and apply it against 2 of the fighter counters, which are defense 3, pretty easy to hit. Even if the defender bumped them up, they'd still probably be taken out. And they are eliminated the second they receive a damage counter. So they don't get the fire back. That's the weakness of counter units and the advantage of card units during the military phase. We would have been able to do the rapid strike fleet, but unfortunately they already took their attack during the surprise strike abilities, so they don't go at this point. Up next, we're going to go over to Jump Battlesuit Company. Now, normally troops are not allowed to attack in the first exchange for the attacker, but he does have the assault ability, so he's going to be able to move on Malachar 4 right away. He has an attack value of 5 +3 when he uses his assault. So that brings him up to a total of 8 versus Malachar's value of 7. So that's enough to apply one of the conquest counters that we need to during this conquest action. And lastly, the cyborg infantry division would not normally be able to go. They don't have built-in assault, but they could pay for it with one of their mission counters. I don't want to do that at this point because I have another trick up my sleeve in the next exchange. So we're just going to hold off and let them not be able to target anything. The advantage is they won't be able to be targeted either during this exchange, unless the defender happened to pull out intercept to strike them. So that concludes the step 1. In step 2, the defending player will get to fire back. World cards don't make any attacks. And what we're going to do here is we are going to do a combination of things. We want to have the fighter counter here, which has 3+3 attack versus fleets, go against the rapid strike fleet and get revenge for its carrier. Now with the Phalanx battle formation, its defense value is bumped up to a total of 7, so that 6 wouldn't cut it. Unfortunately, beam weapon batteries are going to join in here and add their attack. They also have a depletion ability of firing arcs +1, so they have a 6 + 2, total of 8. They're going to deplete, use that ability to split it into a 7 and a 1. We're going to apply that extra 1 value to this, bringing that 6 + 1 to 7, enough for them to deliver a damage counter to that guy. And then we're going to take the remaining 7 points over to Light Cruiser Task Force. Now, the Light Cruiser Task Force has a defense value of 7, +4 for its mission counter, and +3 for Phalanx. So that's 14. That 7 wouldn't do it at all, except now the fighter strike player is going to play one of his tactics cards. He's going to do the basic version of the card, defense half value for a fleet or troop. So cutting the 14 down to 7, and we'll pay our 1 mission counter there for that. So that's enough for it to apply a damage counter between those 2 combined forces there. All right. And we next have the standard mechs. They have the ability to make an attack versus only attacking troops. And the jump battle suit definitely is a viable target since they moved during this exchange and did an attack. So they have a value of 7 + 2 versus non-mech troops, which definitely counts that guy. So his total of 9 versus their 5 is definitely enough to apply against that guy. The cyborgs, again, are not valid targets since they did not go. Then in step 3, we're going to determine who is eliminated from their conquest counters, or damage counters. So we have the Jump Battlesuit Company. It took 1, they're out. We have the Rapid Strike Fleet, which got hit by 2 sides there. And 1 is all it takes to take out that unit. They don't have a lot of defense. Not too strong, but they hit hard. Now, normally we would be losing our Light Cruiser Task Force at this point from that, but we're going to pull a rabbit out of our sleeve, and we're going to bring an Azar here who is on the table, and he's going to deplete to remove 1 damage counter from a non-capital fleet. So we do that just before that calculation occurs. And so now he barely survives from this character stepping again. Again, characters are very powerful in changing the tides of battle. All right. So then we've done through all the attacks then for the defender. So lastly then, and with our conquest counters, we're going to go on to determining if there's any withdrawals. The attacker goes first. He can withdraw all his attacking units if he wants and end the conquest action. Better to maybe run away. But we're going to press the attack since we have the advantage here. And then likewise, the defender has the ability to move away any defending fleets cards that are surviving. So the carrier group, if had made it to this point, could retreat to fight another day, but it was eliminated, and the fighter counter cannot move without its card. So it will have to wait out the rest of the battle. And that concludes the first exchange, and now we will continue on to the second exchange. And here in the second exchange, we're going to go through the same 4 steps to complete this conquest action. So first, our Light Cruiser Task Force is going to spend its remaining mission counters, so attack +4, defense +4, and firing arcs +1. So it's going to be able to split that attack. So it's going to do its 8 plus 4, which is 12. And we're going to take 6 of that and throw that against the beam weapon batteries, which only has a defense of 6. So that's easy enough. Then we're also going to take an additional 6 and apply it against the standard mech company, which would be enough to take out its defensive value of 6. But we're going to add extra to it with our cyborg infantry division, who will join in. And at this point, they're going to do one of their mission counters to giving them +1 on piercing and hardened +1 also. So they'll also be able to provide their attack value of 7 plus the 6 from the light cruisers, giving it a total of 13 versus 6, although it does get one more addition from these guys being a non-mech, but that's still not enough at 8. And because it's piercing +1, it is applying additional damage counter for 2, which will need to overcome its hardened +1. All right. Then in step 2, the defender gets to fire back. Again, Malachar does nothing. Worlds can't attack. So the fighters, last fighter counter is going to come in and try to attack it with its 3+3 ability versus the light cruiser here. It's 11. That's not enough to pull it off. But the beam weapon batteries are going to come to its aid on the death stroke here. 6 plus 2 from the prior turn and another +2 as this card continues to charge in strength, giving it a total of 10. So 16 versus its defensive value of 11 is more than enough to pull off a damage counter for the light cruiser. And then lastly, we have our standard mech company. They are going to attack the troops since they can't affect fleets, being likewise a troop. So they have their 7 plus 2, giving a total of 9. 9 easily exceeds the defensive value of 5. We could have bumped it up to 8, but that still wouldn't have got it done. So that's why I went with hardened +1 instead. So the mechs are going to apply a damage counter to it, but they don't have piercing +1, so they won't be putting on the additional 1 to get rid of it. So then in step 3, we will resolve all these damage counters. The light cruiser task force, unfortunately, has no more tricks up its sleeve, so it's out of play. The standard mech company requires a +1, so it requires 2 damage counters to take out from its hardened ability. We got that done with their piercing, so it's out of play. And the beam weapon barriers only require 1 damage counter, so they also go away. And lastly, our cyborg infantry division would also have been eliminated if we had not paid for hardened +1. And that was part of the strategy, is waiting to the end where it didn't have to survive into a third exchange if something had drawn the battle out. And so it has still 1 mission counter, and that guy will go away. And at the end there are no withdraw decisions. We could make that withdraw decision for the cyborg infantry division be silly at this point, because then we would give up the conquest action that we lost so much for. So at the end of the conquest action, you do a quick calculation check to see if you've achieved everything. We did apply a conquest counter on that guy, which was required 1. We eliminated all the defending cards that were troops or installations. And the fleets are irrelevant, and there were no orbitals. And at this point, unfortunately, this guy goes away. That's why we didn't fire him on the second exchange. We knew he'd be eliminated anyway at the end of the conquest action. And we did have 1 surviving unit. We could have withdrawn him if we wanted to move it to another world card post the conquest action, but then we would give up Malachar. And that concludes the conquest action. And then you would resolve that for the other planets if you had multiples, and you resolve conquest actions, as always, in the order of your choosing, which sometimes makes a big difference with units reallocating to different worlds or withdrawing between conquest actions. And that concludes the military phase.